What's going on, football fans? It is Friday, November 3rd. Happy birthday, Dolph Lundgren. I'm Kevin Carroll. He's Joe Soprano, and we're from TLSportsBetting.com, your one-stop shop for everything you need for a great football weekend. Picks, predictions, insight, analysis, the whole shebang-a-bang. We've got everything you need here at TLSportsBetting.com. And what a football weekend we've got coming up.
Big football weekend.
A lot of good, hot quality matchups on the slate this week.
And it's interesting that you mentioned Dolph Lundgren, because my first pick in the college football,
okay,
it's going to go a lot like that Apollo Creed Drago fight.
Oh.
I see Mike Norvell standing on the sidelines, looking over at the Pittsburgh Panthers and just saying, "If they die, they die."
So you're taking the Seminoles, is what you're saying.
I'm taking the Seminoles, laying 21.5 points. Pat Narduzzi threw his whole team underneath the bus last week after an embarrassing loss at Notre Dame, 56-7, 57-8, or embarrassing. It was so bad.
It was 1,000,000-0.
Yeah, it's going to be worse this week. I can't imagine what that locker room is like. I don't see any way Narduzzi gets those players back after basically saying, "Yeah, I don't have any good players. That's why we got beat that badly." Maybe true. I don't think that's the whole problem there in Pittsburgh, but it's certainly something that you can't say as a coach if you want to continue to have those guys work hard for you. Florida State, the number 4 team in the nation. I think if you look at their record and look at Michigan's record, you can make a very good case who Florida State played, who Michigan played, that Florida State should be the number 1 team in the nation, especially since they're doing it without knowing the other team's signs. But that will all work itself out. But this weekend, you're going to see Florida State run all over and just destroy Pittsburgh, 21.5 points. It's going to be 21.5 points before the first quarter is over.
Yeah, wow. It's kind of funny. I was going to make a Dolph Lundgren reference in my first college pick as well. Not as well thought out as that one, though. I've got Nebraska. They are going to Michigan State. They are 3-point favorites. That game is at noon on Fox Sports 1. Last week, I faded the Spartans, and it worked. They lost to Minnesota. They didn't cover the spread. So I'm just going to go right back to it. They are in shambles. We've seen it. They've yet to win a Big Ten game. They are struggling, and this is not the worst team they've played in this run. I think they're 0-6 in the Big Ten overall, both East and West, both opponents. But Nebraska, I feel like a lot of people checked out on Nebraska after they got their doors blown off by Colorado. That's fair. But since then, they've won 5 of 6. Their only loss in that stretch was to Michigan, very good, and maybe had some signs. The big thing Nebraska did in this stretch, they switched quarterbacks. They went from Jeff Sims, who was really more pretty much just only a run threat, and he fumbled the ball a lot, to Heinrich Haarberg. Sounds like a Rocky movie villain, speaking of Dolph Lundgren. But he's been much more careful with the football. He's not been lighting up the scoreboard or the stat sheet, but he's been much more careful with the ball, safer with the ball. He threw 2 touchdowns in Nebraska's win last week. I think they're going to do a lot better job just controlling the game. They're going to be able to score not 50, not 40, but they probably only need 28 points against this Michigan State team. The Spartans just have nothing going for them at this point. It's in East Lansing, and I know you always say it's hard to win on the road in any power conference game, but I think a big part of that is when you go to a place with expectations and their fans are super excited about the season. I'd be hard-pressed to find one Michigan State fan who's got any excitement left after the year they've had. So I'm gonna comfortably lay the 3 points with Nebraska. I think they roll.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Thank you.
So moving into the NFL, I looked at the NFL board, a lot of good games, not a lot of ones I felt really strongly about.
I agree, actually.
But they're going to put a gun to my head. They're going to make me make a pick. I vowed a couple of weeks ago I would not pick any games involving the Eagles ever again because I'm always on the wrong side of that. Then the next week I picked the Eagles game and was wrong again. So you know what I'm going to do this week? Picking another Eagles game. I like the Cowboys in Philadelphia getting 3 points. I love that Cowboys defense. The Eagles have been schizophrenic all season long. You don't know what team's going to show up. The team that played in Miami might show up or the team that played the Jets might show up. You just don't know. And sooner or later, that's going to catch up with them. I think it catches up with them this week, and I'm taking the Cowboys getting 3 in the city of brotherly love.
Going to get a lot of angry reacts on this video.
Which is odd because it's the city of brotherly love. Why don't you Eagles fans love me?
It's conditional, brother.
Yeah, well.
So that's going to be a good game. I'm actually looking very much forward to watching that game. For my NFL pick, I'm picking a game that is awful. It's just horrendous. It's the Browns and the Cardinals. The Browns, I have some explaining to do here. Not necessarily explaining, but a qualifier for sure. If you read my column in this morning's paper, which you should, and if you don't, I'm going to come get you. If you read my column, I had the Browns as 8-point favorites, and in that column I mentioned that Deshaun Watson had practice. He was back in practice. He was by no means a sure thing to start, and I was making that pick with the idea that P.J. Walker would still be quarterback in mind. Since the paper hit your front steps, and in between then and now, Deshaun Watson has been confirmed. He will be playing on Sunday, so the line's jumped up to 10 points. That's a sketchy number, but you know what? I'm still pretty confident the Browns will cover 10 points. The Cardinals, I think they used every bit of energy they had to play a couple close games, and they beat the Cowboys, and then it's been downhill since then. And they just traded Josh Dobbs, their quarterback, who he hadn't been playing good, but he hadn't been playing bad. He'd been keeping them in some games. He's gone now. He's in Minnesota, where Kirk Cousins just tore his Achilles. He's out for the year. He's going to try to save their season. The Cardinals are going to turn to Clayton Tune, a rookie. They drafted him this year. He's never started a game. I'm not sure if he's thrown a pass yet this year. And he's going to get his first start against the Browns defense, the best overall scoring defense in the league. That's a recipe for disaster. You've lost James Conner along the way if you're the Cardinals. It's just bad after bad after bad. The Browns offense, even with Watson coming back in, the Browns offense probably isn't great. They're down their star running back, Nick Chubb's out for the year. But I think the Cardinals' run defense is 25th in rushing yards allowed in the league. They're not very good. I think the Browns will be able to get Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford if he's 100% this week. They'll be able to get those guys going. Watson will be able to make some plays. I don't know if the Cardinals score a single point here. So if the Browns could score 10, that's a push. If they could score 13, that's a cover. And I'm pretty confident they're going to be able to do that, especially knowing that the Steelers won last night and the Browns are going to have to win to keep up, and I think they're going to want to look at some style points. That's turning into a very interestingly tough division, I think. Although I don't know if the Browns or the Steelers are really that good, but they're winning games, and that's all you need to do. So I like the Browns. Again, I locked them in at 8. You could lock them in at 10. I'm going to give myself an out, though, if they cover 8 but not 10. I'm not taking responsibility for that.
Well, it's hard to get a cover in the NFL if you don't put any points on the board, no matter who you're playing.
That's a very Trent Dilfer-esque line. You can't win in the NFL if you don't score points. That is true almost 100% of the time.
Yep. If you put up a goose egg, you're probably going to lose.
Anything else? Any final thoughts as we hit the weekend?
Well, I'm just looking forward to that Pitt-Florida State game to see what the dumbest man in college football has in store this weekend.
Oh, boy, yeah. Did you see how his players, the way they were on Twitter almost immediately after that clip hit the web, just absolutely bad vibes in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's not a good situation. That's the type of thing that gets a coach fired. It really does. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out. If it plays out well, I think it does, Pat Narduzzi may be looking for a job come January.
Yeah, I'm thinking he's just trying to spin his wheels and get to the finish line this year. And it looks like we're at the finish line as well, folks. Again, tlsportsbetting.com. Everything you need. You want to get some info about Notre Dame going to Clemson. You want to get some info about Penn State. We said the Steelers played. Obviously, they played on Thursday night, but the Eagles have a game coming up. We'll have all sorts of good stuff on there about that. You could read my column on there if you haven't already read it. And again, if you didn't read my column in the paper, I will find you. But yeah, that's all for us. Again, tlsportsbetting.com. Go there. The minute you click out of this video, head there, get in the game. Thank you very much for watching, as always, and have a great football weekend.